Hi, Jane here. Thanks for joining me. This time I want to talk to you about patience as a writer. Interesting. Now, patience, I can hear somebody saying, oh no, not that. I hate to talk about patience. You've all heard the thing of somebody praying, God, I want patience and I want it right now. Um, yeah, patience is a tough one. Sometimes it just frustrates you just to even think about it. Well, we're going to think about it anyway. So put your thinking cap on and lay your emotions off to the side. Let's look at this a minute. You ever been in that place where you're trying to write something and you're looking at your computer and you see that blank screen and that little cursor is just flashing away at you and there's not a word written on it? Or you've written a little bit and you don't know the next word to write. You're stumped. And it's like that little blinking light on there kind of haunts you. It kind of says bad things to you. It puts pressure on you. You've got to perform. You've got to perform. Why aren't you writing? Why aren't you writing? There's that little voice inside us all that just eat your lunch if you let it. And, the frustration finally just impatience and that nagging, you've got to do it and you're not doing it, that boils over into frustration or anger or you name it. None of it's really good. And you end up just stopping. You just walk away, you quit, whatever that looks like in your situation. That's where you go. Now, I think it would be helpful for the sake of what we're talking about here, to talk about exactly what I'm talking about with patience. And you can find all kinds of good definitions on the internet. I go to dictionary.com all the time myself. But in my personal library here in my writing room, I have a 1939 volume. It's the Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, 5th edition, and it was copyrighted in 1939. And so I like to go back into older dictionaries because you tend to, many times, get a deeper meaning to it because we've kind of lightened things up as we've modernized our lives. And so I'm reading here, but it said that I looked up patient, and it said exercising forbearance under provocation. And this is what got me. Expectant with calmness or without discontent. Also, undisturbed by obstacles, delays, failures, etc. Persevering, able to bear strain or stress. I just think that's just really accurate. And mankind, I think it's a very common problem for human beings at large, And there are some people that they've added a little humor to it, Mark Twain said, all good things arrive unto them that wait and don't die in the meantime. And I have felt like that, I'll be patient. Hurry. And Margaret Thatcher brought a little different tint to it when she said, I'm extraordinarily patient, provided I get my own way in the end. So everybody has their way of describing patience and dealing with the temptation to be frustrated when things don't go our way. Humor is a good thing to bring to your writing practice because life just happens, Keeping a good attitude really helps. Now, when you talk about patience in a writer, it almost feels like an oxymoron. How can this even be? I think writers have a reputation, right, wrong, good or bad, of, you just sit down and write when you feel like it, and it just comes. It's kind of almost is looked at as a magical ability that, writing is not like that. It may be from time to time where it feels like that, but no, writing, you decide to sit down and write, and you discipline yourself, and you set aside the time, and you do it. Now, emotions, patience, I think this, for what we're talking about here anyway, I'm not a psychologist or anything else, but for me, working with people who are writing, and myself writing, patience is not an emotion. Patience is not a feeling. Patience is a skill that you develop as a writer to deal with those disturbances and blockages and things that happen to you when you're trying to write and you can't. When that voice is screaming in your head, you're not going to make your deadline. You're not going to do it. Why are you trying to write this? You can't do it. Yang, 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 yang. You know that voice in your own mind. Well, the good news, my writer friend, is that patience is not an emotion. Therefore, if it's a learned skill, then you can learn it. There, it's not something that's unattainable to you. But you have to realize that, oh yeah, it's a skill, so I can practice this. Well, how am I going to practice patience? I think I describe impatience as what happens to us, my response when something, the result of something that I'm expecting doesn't meet my expectations. When what happens falls below what I'm expecting, or it doesn't come the way I think it's going to come, then I'm tempted to be impatient. I want it this way, and that takes you to a bad place. It takes me to a bad place. Now, one of the main ways that I combat this, and I teach people to combat impatience in the context of writing, is to spend the time. I did a 6-part series, and you can find it on my website, about the writing process. And it takes you through, and the beginning stages of that process include planning and strategizing and working with the time element. How long is it going to take? It doesn't matter whether you're writing a blog post or you're writing the great American novel, or anything in between. Whatever you're writing, there's my series talks about how to deal with that, how to set your schedule up. And yes, to accomplish a writing project, schedule it. Commit it to time, and commit to starting it, to completing it, and working on it on a very regular basis. And this is kind of repetitive because it is in that series, but writing daily, a set number of words, a minimum, that really helps deal with the impatience part that comes, because you're developing that discipline of writing regularly. But all of that planning, all of that prep work, one of the side benefits of doing that is that as you're doing that strategizing and that setting things to time and putting it on a calendar, you're building in there adequate time. You take an honest look. How long is it going to take me to do the research, to do the writing, to do the editing? How much time do I need? You set your target dates or your deadlines accordingly. Now, if you're working with a conventional publisher, you may have some deadlines thrown at you that you have to meet. Well, you have to accommodate them by applying enough time on a regular basis to where there's a cushion in there. You plan a cushion so that if things do hit a snag, or maybe everything's going fine and you just realize, I need to do more research on this part, and that wasn't in my original plan. Well, you've built cushion into it so you can go on and still do all of that and still maintain that target date or that deadline. That's just such an important part of this. It's just such a huge element to maintaining your writing flow. Now, it's just so important. It's just so important to recognize where your issues are. What is the trigger for your impatience? That's just a really, really good question. It's possible, if patience is a skill and you decide to function in that skill, then recognizing the places where you tend to get triggered can be very beneficial to you. You kind of recognize it coming and you can prevent it. How do you prevent it? Well, you might just need to, you can kind of feel yourself kind of getting in that impatient place, take a break. Go walk around. Get you a glass of water. Get you, your favorite beverage. Go for a walk outside. Watch some TV. Whatever it is that you can do to get your mind off of this for a while, off your writing. And then when you've refreshed yourself, maybe you need a nap. Do whatever you need to do that helps you. Then come back to it. And I guarantee you that at some point in there, the flow will come back. Patience is your friend. It just really, really is. Um, Patience brings you, it helps you to maintain a stable focus on your work. It keeps you in a productive and creative state of mind. It lets all the trouble, all of that emotion slide off of you like water on a duck's back. It it helps you continue in your flow of writing. And patience will actually help improve your writing skills because you're able to focus in it and continue writing. And there some good things happen when you learn to write in spite of what's trying to happen in and around you. There's some good things in that. And patience will keep you on track with your project, and you'll end up successful with it because you will have pushed through. There's tremendous feelings of accomplishment when you push through something like that and you don't yield to those emotions that take you off to a bad place and stop your work, but you learn to overcome those and come out on top victorious. It's a tremendous feeling. Now, impatience, by the same token, oh, it just brings emotional upheaval. Like I said, anger, frustration, discouragement, you name it, it's some similar combination for most everybody, but it takes you to a bad place. It blurs the vision that you have for your project. You'll start hearing yourself saying, well, you can't do this. Well, this is dumb. Well, who would want to read this anyway? Stop that. Don't go there. That's a product of that impatience. It does bad things to you. And impatience will, in the reverse way that patience helps the flow of your writing, impatience can damage, it can take away from the quality of the flow of your writing because your focus isn't focused, it's split. Part of you is focused on those emotions while the rest of you is focused on what you're writing or trying to write. And impatience, the worst thing of all, is that it really does risk project failure. Impatience, if you don't deal with it, you run into it enough times without changing something, you run the risk of just giving up your writing. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I quit. Or maybe you just won't ever start. Impatience can hit you at any time during your process. And you may be doing everything right. You may be doing really well with your project, and you've allowed plenty of time, and you're doing everything right, and still life happens. You cannot deny the fact that we do not have control of everything that enters our life every day. Sometimes I wish I did, other times I'm glad I don't, but life happens and I can plan out my day, and then boom, something major comes up out of my control that demands I have to take care of it. Uh, it can be a sudden sickness in the family or any number of things. And you can't just, oh, well, sorry, I can't go. I have I have to sit here and write for an hour. No. If you need to go take care of someone or something, of course you're going to do that. But the planning stage, like we've talked about in the writing process, really helps you create some cushion time in there so that you can just, okay, lay it down, go take care of business, and then come back and plug right back in. Patience is your friend. I have a friend good old Lynette, hey, if you're watching, hey, she's always told me, Jane, remember, change is your friend. And she would tell me that at some of the most god-awful times in my life, and I'd just be half mad at her for saying it, and yet she was right. And so I'm saying to you, hey, patience is your friend. So make those decisions each time to step back, choose patience, exercise patience. It's not the end of the world if you're not having a good writing time right this minute. Check yourself out and see, why am I struggling? What are the triggers that bring me to impatience? Do they come from inside me? Does it come from outside? When you identify what it is, then you can decide, how much control do I have over this? If it's a phone ringing or email or distractions like that, yeah, you have some control over that. If it's children's crying or screaming in the background, you may have to change your writing time or move to a different location. You have some control, and some things you just don't have any control. It just, life happens. I hope this has helped you. Patience is your friend. Thank you for joining me. Be looking for the Right Turn podcast coming very soon. By the middle of February, it's going to be up and running. I'm very excited about it, to share it with you, and I'm working hard and as fast as I can. As you can tell, I'm kind of recovering from a cold, so I'm waiting to do some recording until I have my full voice back. Thank you very much again for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.